The following live broadcast is rated ESV 16. Some fights could happen. Good evening. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about a topic that's been in the news. It's been all over the place right now, and everybody has a different opinion. Everybody thinks they have the solution, but who really does? We're going to find out. It's about gun control, gun safety with all the mass shootings. The only thing everybody can agree on is something has to be done, but what? That's what we're going to talk about, and we want to hear from people on the that are sided towards the right side, the left side, whatever you want to call, with different opinions, and what they have to say about it. But most of all, we want to hear from you. So, you guys ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Keith Liffin here for Ear Shoulder Voice. Just a reminder before we start on our show, of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow to Ear Shoulder Voice. We're on Meta, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. All those. And don't forget to engage us during the show. You can comment live, and we'll respond to you live for whatever you have to say. No opinions, no judgments off limits. Whatever you have to say, we want to hear it, and we want to talk to you. But on to the topic at hand, of course, one of the biggest things that's been going on, 25 that can count this month, if not more, is like mass shootings. And one thing that everybody can seem to agree on is gun control is a problem. One side wants to eliminate guns altogether. Nobody should have a gun. Will that solve gun control? Will that solve crime? Absolutely. That would totally solve it all. However, you can't guarantee that everybody isn't going to have a gun. You know, the biggest argument is criminals will only be the ones with guns and the only ones with access to it. The other one says just arm everybody because nobody's going to attack anybody with the guns. Well, let's start with war is people with guns attacking people with guns. So that's not an answer either, and it takes one person that's a little off the rail. It's about how you use the gun, and the biggest problem we have is the person using the gun. But do you punish the person by eliminating the weapon? We're going to find out with our panelists on here. But again, we can't have a show without these panelists. We can't have these shows without the topics. So let's bring in our panel. Our first panelist tonight, please welcome back. Of course, he is the king, and let's see if he's the king of the gun control conversation. Please welcome Bill. Bill, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I was glad I was able to make it here. I've been cleaning my guns all day, so I wasn't sure if I'm going to be on time. So
I know it can be quite the job, quite the job. Hopefully, just to keep them in shape, keep them safe, and stuff like that, right?
yeah.
That's the only reason, just to be sure. So, how have you been, Bill? How was your
Just
week?
dealing with the heat.
Of
Dealing with
course,
the heat, and that's it. So
of course.
I
Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Obviously, we're talking about gun control and stuff, and out of curiosity, where do you think you would lie on that? I've talked about the extremes here. Do you think it should go one way or another? Do you think there's a middle ground to meet as a gun owner
I
yourself?
think I think everyone needs more education on the subject.
I could not
There are
agree
too many
with more.
there are too many people that don't know enough. Too many people who don't understand what assault rifles are. Too many people who don't understand about the word militia. And like I said, when you're not knowledgeable of that, if you don't know, and again, another problem is you listen to the wrong people or you get your own idea on stuff. But then again, like it's been said before, everyone comprehends different things in different ways. So
Very true on that. Very true on that. Let's bring in our next panel and find out if they have the education that you're talking about right now. Please welcome Josh. Josh, how you doing?
Pretty good, Keith. How are you, sir?
I am absolutely fantastic. I'm absolutely fantastic. Uh, so you've seen everything in the news and stuff like that, and you seem to be very pro gun, from what I understand. Where is your stance? Do you think anything needs to be done on that, or do you think that it should just be let go as is?
Oh no, absolutely not as is. I think one of the I mean, in my opinion, one of the big problems is gun-free zones. I think if you have a gun-free zone, the only person allowed, or the only person that's going to have a gun in those gun-free zones, like schools and churches, etc., is going to be a criminal. and the only, and by the time the police get called and get there to take care of the problem, it's way too late. So having these easy targets for a criminal who's carrying a gun, I think, is a problem. They're easy targets, and for mentally unstable people or people who are not educated properly, like Bill said, with gun handling and stuff like that, then it is an issue. But I think taking guns away is the absolute no.
I also agree that fully taking away guns away should be an absolute no. And as Bill said, there's a difference in a lot of different guns and things that have to be, people have to be educated on and where it stands. But we've got some people here who definitely probably think that guns are not the answer in a lot of ways. So please welcome Elena and Miranda. Come on, Elena. How you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. So good to have you on the show. So tell me your stance. You've heard the last two people on here. Obviously, a little bit of mix. Some are more one direction, some than others. I'm a little bit middle ground on it. What is your personal feelings?
Personally, for me, in a perfect world, there'd be no guns that exist in the whole world. But I think for America as a whole, we just need to start with baby steps because there's clearly a problem. So I think very minimum ID to buy a firearm needs to be presented, and we're not even seeing that. And like that, I think that's a fucking problem.
So you definitely think it's more of a change in the laws. What about you, Miranda?
I think for me, it's an issue of ease of access. I think that firearms are too easily accessible. Simply, in the state that I live in Minnesota, when you want to get an abortion, you have to wait 24 hours until you can get the abortion. There is a similar law for guns. There's barely any sort of background checks done, and it's too easy for anyone these days to get their hands on a firearm. I have personal experience with issues arising with that.
Yeah, well, some of the states have certain laws that make it more difficult or a lot easier. Yeah. But the problem with living in the U.S. most of the time, you can just go online to a place located in that state and get most of the things you need to get a gun imported to you. I think that's one of the issues, one of the things that needs to change as well. Finally, we're going to bring our last panelist, Nikki. How you doing, Nikki?
Hi, Keith. Good. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. So good to have you on the show. I know you've had problems in the past getting on here, so we're glad to have you back. You are definitely good at this. We love having you on. So everybody has very similar opinions as far as one of the main things that needs to be done, but I think different opinions as far as what would be the perfect world and what we should and shouldn't have. So, Nikki, what is your stance?
Well, personally, I'm a CPL holder. I don't believe that removing guns altogether is the solution. I think that definitely in the process of purchase, there should be some safeguard steps possibly in place. But I think, safety classes is huge. Being knowledgeable is huge, and guns not getting into the wrong hands, because I think that is the large part of the problem, is too many people who shouldn't have them are getting access to them. And then it is making it look as if those of us who are, we respect the ability to have a weapon. I've spent a lot of money in training to make sure that I am not only comfortable in handling my weapon, but comfortable in dealing in a high stress situation that I would need to use it. I don't think everybody goes, beyond just the CPL class. I'd be actually curious to hear people be quizzed and see if they can remember some of the rules that you learn in that CPL class.
I would definitely like to see that too, because I think a lot of people do forget that. So we've got it out there. We agree that everybody agrees there's something that's got to be done to change. Who here is a gun owner? You are. Who would like to be a gun owner? Josh, are you on that side? Are you a gun owner? No.
Well, I have access to. I don't own any, but I go shooting all the time. But I mean,
if you
I'm doing with a gun, I just don't own one in my house particularly.
I understand that, assuming you have kids probably. So an issue for a lot of people. But at the same time, the issue of not having one, I don't know if kids is partly a reason. I don't like having one in my house either, just because I have different people over, and I don't want easy access to that a lot of times. So for the gun owners out there, I'm just going to ask, what is the purpose of owning your gun? Why do you personally have a gun? And I'll start with Bill. Or more.
Well, I'm a redneck, so hunting. That's where he started off. It was hunting. I mean, the whole world forever and a day, as soon as guns were invented, that was one of the main things is you were able to kill something for food. And me, it's hunting, and for self-preservation in my own home.
Okay, that's good. Josh, if you were to own one or having access, what is your main purpose behind that? Say you didn't have kids.
It wouldn't be for hunting. I'm not big on killing anything ever, but it would be self-preservation, like Bill just said. But see, I took different methods of protecting my home using scare tactics and security cameras and other ways to keep somebody from breaking into my house, which not a foolproof method, but it does the trick as far as I'm concerned. It makes having a gun less needed to protect my home.
And finally, I'm going to go to you, Nikki, because I'd like to get the perspective of different people that have them or want them and their reasons behind it. Because I think everybody thinks everybody that wants a gun is just a gun-happy nut. Or anybody
Yeah.
wants a gun.
Yeah, no, mine was purely safety. At the time that I began the process, I was doing a lot of late night by myself, getting strangers into my car, and I had incidences that made me really uncomfortable and afraid. And so my next step was to protect myself. And that's why I made sure, I took the safety classes, and there's still many more that I would like to take, but it was really just safety for myself and my family.
This show, I'm going to ask you, Nikki, this show is built on people with hidden, I guess, mental issues a lot of times, and mental health, and things that we hide all the time. Being a show based on people like that, do you think those people, including people on this panel who have shared their issues before, have a right to possess a gun, knowing how fragile and off the rails they can go?
I hate to say it, but no. I mean, when your mental stability is in question, you become a risk to yourself and others, and that doesn't exclude guns. Anything can become a weapon with somebody of that mindset, and we can't blame the gun for what the shooter has chosen. However, we can prevent them from getting them. So I've seen some people in some very scary, manic situations, and one person was able to go to some countryside store and purchase a rifle with no check in place or anything. And he was able to purchase a rifle, and he had several mental health stays in hospitals. And that's scary to know that is so easy for someone of that mindset to be able to access, a weapon.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think that there's far too little done in the depth of research to find people who can possess a firearm or get a firearm. But Elena wants to live in a world with no guns, an ideal utopian world. And actually, Elena, I agree with you. That would be a utopian world. Sadly, it's not a world that we'd ever see in our lifetimes. But what is your reaction to the people who want to own their guns, such as Josh would have for self-preservation, Bill for hunting, Nikki for safety?
See, personally, I don't understand it. I'm not saying that anyone's wrong for wanting that. I just don't personally understand it. I've never wanted to own a gun. I went to the shooting range once in my lifetime, shot a Glock 9 6 times with the safety officer helping me, and then cried and wanted to go home. So that's just not me. I'm not a gun person. I will never be a gun person. My husband really wants to buy one. I have no issue with him buying one as long as before it's brought into my home, there's a safe for it to go to. I'm really thankful that I grew up in a house that didn't have gun access, because when I was younger, I definitely had suicidal episodes and whatnot. So I'm really happy I didn't have access to that at that age. I do know a lot of other young kids do have access to that, and I wish that they didn't, because a lot of parents aren't taking proper precautions in the forms of that. Not even for someone just being suicidal, but someone that's suicidal to the point where they also want to harm other people before they harm themselves. So I'm really grateful I never was in that environment. And I want other kids to also not be in that environment. And I think the best way we can do that is proper safety. I don't think that it's wrong for kids to go hunting with their parents or grandparents or anything like that. I think that if there's a gun in the home, it needs to be in a safe at all fucking times.
I do agree with the safe, but there's a problem with the safe aspect. I often hear people say they're keeping it for safety, but if they keep the gun in the safe, the odds are by the time they get the gun, if they're faced with an intruder with the gun, that safe is going to inhibit them from doing anything.
And I fully agree with that too. Why I always just say that's an option is because I don't want everyone to just strike me as I hate all guns. I think guns are bad, because I do, but I do believe in the choice to have collectible items, you know? Like, I think in a perfect world, like, not in a perfect world, I think for America, what we need is people can own guns, but you're not allowed to take ammunition home unless it's for a hunting rifle.
There's definitely going to
What
be an
would be the
argument to
point of
that.
that then? What would be the
A
purpose
collectible
of,
item.
Okay.
so you think
Okay.
people should only collect guns? Do you think police officers should carry weapons still?
I think police officers should, and that's it. As long as the
Okay.
population has guns, the police should have guns. If the
So what about
population
the-
does not,
What about the instance where the officer had the weapon and he shot at someone who was unarmed? Do you still feel like a police officer should have the only weapon
I
in
think
that
police
situation?
officers need more training, because regardless if people are armed or not, innocent people are still getting shot by police officers. A lot of
Mhm.
unarmed people are still getting shot by police officers. I don't think the solution is to give that unarmed person a gun to protect themselves from police officers. I think police officers are a whole different topic than gun control itself.
And I'd also believe with the argument of police officers having guns and shoot somebody unarmed. Well, that's what criminals do. A lot of criminals do is they have guns and shoot people unarmed as well.
You had a whole
So-
lot. You had a whole lot of police officers all over the United States. Before all the shootings started, they were being trained in non-lethal weaponry. So we're talking about tasers, and we're talking about now what is on the market is it's called a 50 caliber air gun, and it shoots a pellet, whether it's a solid pellet or it's a pepper ball pellet, and
Or a
it
rubber,
has
it's a
decent
rubber
range.
bullet.
Yeah, the bean
Right.
bag too.
It's a solid pellet. And there's always been beanbag guns and everything like that. So there's all kinds of options of non-lethal. But the thing is and like Elena's saying, it's training and knowledge. What you choose at your point in time when the police officer's standing there, does he feel threatened enough to pull out his firearm? Does he feel threatened enough just to use the taser? Does he feel threatened enough to pull this out? And like I said, when all the shooting started, unfortunately, most of that training stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely asinine that as a hairstylist, I have to go through more school than a fucking cop with a weapon has to.
Very true. I want to hit back on something else you said, Elena, as far as people with the mental stage having and you too, Nikki. I'm going to read a text I sent out on Saturday, actually, when I was working at the bar, or might have Friday, because I had Saturday off. I was there Friday. And I texted one of my friends, I won't say their name, but I said, where you at, my friend? He says, hiding from the world, followed by the response, but the world wants to see you, is what I said in return to that. His response was not buying it. The only reason I'm still around is lack of access to firearms. Done deal. Haven't heard or talked to him since. Been trying to get a hold of him, very concerned that night and stuff, because that's obviously an issue. This should be a factor, I think, especially one reason Josh might not have guns in his household. I know your kids are younger, but as they get older, what makes this okay when you have a child that could do something like this? What kind of state is that? Miranda, by the way, Miranda, you can talk anytime you want, talk over
Thank
people as
you.
well. Okay, so don't
I'm really
worry.
good at talking over people. Go
Yes.
for it.
Very Midwest nice. I'm not used to interrupting people.
I hear this stuff and it actually scares me. Especially when it's somebody so close to home. And it makes me rethink my opinion of firearms and being that everybody deserves one or should have one. So what kind of impact do you think it has? We have people like that literally, because of the lack of firearms are why they're still there. Then what is the biggest argument that everybody deserves one? And how do you spot that? How do you spot something like that if you're somebody in the household? Anybody?
If you raise your children with a good respect to firearms, it's a better thing. And again, I'm going back to the hunting thing because I'm, Southern guy. you raise them with respect for firearms. But again, like you keep saying, you don't know sometimes when a child has a mental state that he's hiding from you or she's hiding from you, and what they're thinking and what they're doing. And you still have that obligation when your child is under 18 years old to keep your guns away from that kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stan's here. Stan says guns, even collectibles, are worth money if they can actually fire. Good to see you, Stan. Which is very true. So, how can you prove it without the ammo, though? You know, I guess that's another way to put it. Okay, so who here will argue that there is a correlation that we have the most mass shootings by percentage, so not just anywhere in the world for this country, but also the most guns in the country? Do you think there's a correlation there?
Obviously.
I think the bigger correlation is the parents' lack of safety within the home. That was one of my main things before I even brought my gun into the home was my kids. I didn't want them to fear it. I wanted them to respect it. I wanted them to be aware that it was in the home, but they do not have any access to it. The safe is, you know, by my print and my print only. I'm the only person who has access to it.
But most mass shootings and most of the issues we had that we were talking about that is the correlation with the number of guns owned come from people who acquire their guns from places other than their parents' closet or wherever they may keep it.
Sure.
Like Nikki, of course, I think by being a gun owner, I think that you're being a very responsible gun owner. So when I say this next thing, I don't want you to think that I'm talking about you, because I'm not. I think a lot of the fucking problem is that there is little to no, a lot of the time, background check on anyone buying a firearm. Like my father-in-law, for instance, he's ex-military, he collects guns, he thinks they're really cool. I don't understand it, but like, that's fine, that's his hobby, whatever. And he sent Brandon and I a text a couple months back and was just like, sent us this brand new AR-15 he just bought at a gun show. And he goes, yeah, I left my ID at home and they didn't even ask for it. Like, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, I believe that. Because it's...
Hold on one second. Go ahead, Miranda.
So I recently was threatened with a firearm by someone who has a torturing animals misdemeanor and who has red flags for being hospitalized for psychiatric reasons. He bought a shotgun at Cabela's. Absolutely no background check. And that went through. And that's absolutely terrifying. The fact that this person was able to buy that with things on his record, charges, insanity. That shouldn't happen, especially for violent charges.
Yeah.
So what?
You have police. Police do a background check on you for criminal activity. They have no access, unfortunately, to your medical records unless you have been arrested and been known to be mentally incompetent or whatever you want to call it. And that's the only way they can find out anything like that. Other than that, if you've never been arrested for anything like that, they can't chase down your medical records.
But there
one of
should
my
be
biggest things too is that people just keep going back to people. Oh, well, people are just mentally unstable and HIPAA laws. So like we can't stop mentally unstable people from buying guns. It's not just people that are mentally unstable. There's still bad people buying firearms.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and there's access to firearms. You can buy from a private seller, and obviously a private seller doesn't have means to do a private, background check on that person. So
That's
after the
criminals
fact,
get their guns.
exactly. So
If you buy a handgun, you still have to be cleared by state police in every state.
Yeah, you still have
you should be to legally do it. Yes.
Yeah, you have to legally.
But my father-in-law
aren't
bought a
thinking
gun
about
at a gun show with zero ID and bought an AR-15.
Wow.
That's a not a problem for
that's
him because he's not doing
It's a rifle.
with it.
It's a rifle. It's
Right.
a rifle. So I mean, the thing is, and it's something that I sent Keith pictures to you. And people, this is something, and I'm not calling anyone in here.
If I knew which one was
bad or
which, I'd
anything
show
like
them. I
So,
don't.
A Ruger semi-automatic 22 rifle, which is usually what you buy your kid for his first rifle.
Yeah.
You could dress that up to look like an assault rifle in 15 or 20 different ways. And it's one of those things that I've said because people don't understand. The definition of assault rifle is just like that right there. definition of assault rifle, and there's another picture with even more on there, but
There's
the
a lot.
definition of assault rifle is an automatic rifle right there. It's an automatic rifle that is able to be fed by a large clip and shoot multiple rounds in a quick amount of time. That's the definition of assault rifle. And the only thing that bugs me about everything is the fact that when they talk on TV and they're saying stuff, and people who have not been educated, they're saying, "Oh, well, you shot him with assault rifle, shot him with assault rifle." Well, if it's not a fully automatic gun, it's not an assault rifle. But the other unfortunate thing is, all those guns that Keith just showed you, you can send off to another country and get a piece of metal that goes in there and make that a fully automatic gun.
Wow.
It's just that easy. And if you watch the news lately, you'll see that the most recent shootings, they just said that a couple kids bought the stuff from Russia and had it sent here, and were able to make the rifles automatic.
Well, one of the things about that is you can find all this information on YouTube. You know, you can find out how to turn any gun into an assault rifle, or how to do so many different things with guns that I can't even imagine right now. And you can easily find it on the internet. So there should be something cracking down on that. Because changing the gun laws, frankly, I hate to say it, isn't going to happen. I mean, right now, the gun companies have government in their pockets. They do.
It's disgusting.
It is completely disgusting.
And I'm
I agree
so
with that.
fucking sick and tired of hearing people say, "Oh, well, that's my Second Amendment right. That's my Second Amendment right. That's my Second." First of all, the Constitution was formed with amendments so we could change it as we see fit.
It's a living, breathing document. It's not supposed to be
Set in stone.
for the rest of time. And I think personally that the argument of, well, we can have gun restrictions, we can outlaw guns, do whatever, but people are still going to get it illegally on the black market, so why does it matter, is a fallacy. Because if you look at other countries that have strict gun laws, that have followed in those footsteps,
There's
they
no
have
mass shootings.
significantly less, if any, mass shootings than us. So people use that argument, but if you look to Canada, you look to the UK, you look to Australia, they don't have the same thing that we have, and they
Well,
have gun laws.
Let me ask a question for the others on this panel who are the owners and believe in the Second Amendment and everything it stands for, which you're right to, and I believe in a sense it does have its merit. Let me ask you, if the government were to come in and say, we're taking all guns now, and you knew that by doing so you'd eliminate the mass shooting crimes that we have in this country, would it be worth it to give up that right for that?
No.
Why not?
Because the second you are willing to give up one right, they will take away every other right in the name of the fact of safety or control or whatever.
We give up a right to drive on a different side of the street. We've already given up so many rights in the words of government. So I don't buy that argument. If you give up one, you give up everything. But if it was a promise to that and you could eliminate the mass shooting deaths, would that not be worth it to say I'm not
No,
going to have
because
one?
they can't promise me anything. Joe Biden promised
This
he
is
wasn't going to shut down
theoretically.
the pipeline.
This
and
is
he did,
theoretically.
so.
We know for a fact
get it.
already that criminals will still get their guns and things will
Yeah.
still happen. But
Yeah.
theoretically, if that would happen, would that be worth it? Bill or Josh?
Of course it will. If they could take away all the guns from everyone in the United States, whether you're a regular person, whether you're a criminal, whether you're a nut job, and take away all the guns, of course it would be worth it.
What about you, Josh? You've been quiet.
I would be extremely uncomfortable with a government having weapons and guns and none of the citizens having anything. I think that causes a problem with control, government control, and us losing a whole lot more rights then as we would if we had guns, because they know we could fight back. So us being unarmed as a group of citizens would be an extremely dangerous situation to be in with a government who already tries to control everything that we do.
Right.
But you're putting in the fact that government has guns. I'm saying guns are eliminated
He's
from the
saying
country.
everybody.
The only exception to that rule would be if you're on active military during a war or something like that, which would obviously be an exception.
Will be London. The cops will carry nightsticks and run around.
But I'm talking about it's our country as a whole.
We're going to get rid of so nobody can carry baseball bats either, or a spear or any kind of weapon. So the gun is just the most dangerous weapon currently. If you get rid of that, something else is going to be the most dangerous weapon.
But let's be fair. I haven't really seen on the news there was a mass baseball bat beating in schools.
No, because people carry guns.
I
No,
know,
but
but
there was a girl who went around stabbing people. So
a girl.
yeah,
Look at
but
the number of
still,
mass shootings we have, though.
okay, I
I
understand.
also like
the
to mention it's
numbers.
significantly harder to kill people through stabbing than it is through shooting. Just
She
I feel
did
like if
kill-
everybody,
she
if we
did kill
replaced
somebody.
all the guns with like swords, we would have significantly less mass shootings because it's
Cattle
super fucking
prods.
difficult
Cattle
to kill
prods.
someone that way. Yeah.
That's right.
Like if
All
you're
this-
gonna
Well,
kill
I-
someone, at least like put some effort in, not like stand back 100 feet and like there we go. Like
I
Right.
think part of the point is, though, I think part of the point is it's not the guns that are killing, it's the criminals who are killing. So what do we do about the criminals? Because they're still going to exist with or without guns. Then
but
how
it
do
is
we
the guns
defend
in a way. The
ourselves?
guns make it easier. The
But you
guns
can
make
never
it
get rid
easier.
of guns.
If you
though.
wanna
Everyone's
kill-
going to always find a way to make guns. Like you can't get
Okay.
Yeah.
so getting
Great,
rid of them,
but-
it shouldn't even be an option. Like it'll never
But
happen.
the argument is that the argument that was presented was it's not the guns, it's the people. It's both. It's the people, and it's the fact that guns make it extremely easy, like I just mentioned. There's
That's
other ways.
why in other countries that don't have guns,
They
people
still
aren't
have
dying.
murder,
They
but-
still have swords and
They
knives.
still
Oh, she
murder
can't
people.
talk. She's off
It's
camera.
more difficult.
And then
The question is, if you have fucked up people that want to kill someone else, do you make it easy for them, or do you make it difficult for them? Because fucked up people are never going to go away.
I gotta be honest. I do think that some of these people who have committed these school shootings and stuff like that would have thought twice if I'm gonna come in with this knife and start stabbing people versus going in with a gun that they can easily just go in, shoot, be done. You know, I
See,
think
some of you-
they're more
because-
likely to be tackled by people without arms or weapons. They're more likely to be subdued by mass groups or big groups if they're holding a weapon that
Yeah.
does not shoot them from a distance.
And
Also,
on the
let's
point of
say they can take a
officers,
gun into
other
the school
countries,
if it's not a gun-free zone.
other
If there was
countries also
security
have.
or anybody allowed, like, you know, I'm not saying that teachers should carry guns. If they want to do that, they should be able to do that. But if it's not a gun-free zone, it's not an easy target. They target places
Right.
that are easy.
If
Yes.
teachers carry guns, I mean, they would
Or-
have to be
Or
strapped,
the
obviously.
managers, or the principal, or just
A
somebody.
security.
It's not a gun-free zone. If you bring a gun here, somebody's going to shoot you.
Yeah. Security, even. So many
Yeah.
schools have security guards. Why are we not protecting our children through that means? Because obviously we know the option of taking away guns altogether from everybody, that's just not an option. So to
Why-
discuss it, wasting energy.
But that's one of the arguments I
Because when
have.
the Constitution is written, the guns people have, you could throw a singular bullet at a fucking time.
It's
It
just
was
weird the
not- you
voice
could
in the
just
back.
start-
She's anger pacing. It's fine.
No, I'm just holding the baby. It's not like when the Constitution was written, we had all this technology for all of these guns that could just mass shoot people. You could shoot one singular bullet and then you could wait the next 60 seconds while you reloaded it. That's why it was put in place at the time, and why it shouldn't be put in place anymore.
And it
I'm
was
so
yeah.
fucking sick and tired of hearing people, well, that's not Second Amendment right. No, it's not.
Nobody even brought up
Where
the
we
Second
had-
Amendment,
it was
right? I was
also-
simply saying guns shouldn't be completely removed.
Okay, let's bring it down.
I'm not saying
And it's not an
anyone
option.
has, But everyone always does.
Why
Well,
can't
it's
They
they
do.
do that?
We're gonna
My
hit
thought process is if we're trying to, like be productive here and find solutions, I don't think that the solution or the subject should even be take away all guns because plain and simple, it's just not going to happen. Not because I say it's not going to happen, but we live in a government that
But
they're
don't,
not.
don't you agree that in other countries there are less shootings?
I don't know because I don't live in other countries, so
We don't
I
know.
only
No,
see
there.
what's reported on
That
the
is a fact. That is a fact. In other countries, especially with the gun laws, or some that even have eliminated most of the common citizen only gun. Yes, there are far less shootings because people don't have the guns.
How do you know that, Keith?
That
In other countries,
actually-
they find
because
Yeah, there's-
Sue told them to think that way.
no, it's
like actually
not
like
that.
it's a fact.
You
It's
actually-
like an indisputable fact.
That is a
I do
complete
agree
fact.
with you, Nikki. I do agree with you, though. I don't think that it is an actual possibility in our
No.
country for us just to say, okay, everybody's guns, bye bye. Like give them all the
No,
means.
because the
It's not going to
government will
happen.
never let that happen.
The reason I asked that question, and Elena was partly right in her argument, was because the main reason people want the guns is to say they do have their right to have that gun. And that's why I asked the question. If you were to give up, and I did call it a right, on the guarantee that would happen, we know that's never going to happen.
Right.
But would you be more holding on to the fact that you have the right to have that gun or holding on to the fact that you're saving so many people?
No, I'm holding on to the fact that I know for a fact our government is so corrupt that if I release If the whole country releases one right, the government will surely take many others we still have. And that's not something I'm willing to sacrifice for my children's future.
But they take
However,
away
I am
other
willing to
rights.
discuss other options for gun safety and control. There has to be a give and a take. There has to
Why?
be safety and control in place.
Why is the gun the go-to right? Because they often take away rights of people and what they can do. Like I said, as simple as what you can do when you're crossing the street, etc., in lines of which you got to obey and things you have to do. They take away those rights, the right to drive without going through the proper things to have a license. Why does that not lead to guns? Why is it guns always lead to every other right being taken away?
Why
I
is guns
guarantee
always
you
the
that if-
target of crime when there's people who are out there running into people, like driving over people with vehicles? It's not just guns that are killing. It's multiple things are being killed, or people are being killed multiple ways, and just guns happen to be at the
But in
forefront
other
of the
countries,
discussion.
it doesn't happen
And-
because in other
Okay, but
countries,
we're in
Okay.
America, and so we're not. in other countries.
That's the problem. Nikki, I guarantee you, if the government knocks on your door tomorrow and says, Nikki, give me your guns, and you tell them to fuck
I don't
off,
have
and you
it.
just
I don't
stand
know what
there
you're
with-
talking about.
If-
I would
okay,
tell them
but
to
it-
fuck off. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have to.
And you tell them, I guarantee you that if
That's
people
right.
are worried that the
Oh,
government
boy.
I don't have to
guns
answer
or
my
I have
door.
to
Okay,
protect-
okay.
If
Okay,
you,
let's
I know
pull it
my
back.
yourself,
Let's
I
hear
need
from
to
the
protect
gentleman.
myself from the militia.
Let's.
I need to protect myself from the government. Your gun isn't going to be able to stand between you and the government.
if the army
It's
wants
not
to
going to
get into your
protect
house,
you in the
army's
way
getting
that
in
you
your
think it
house.
will.
I'm not trying to
They
protect
have
myself
tanks.
from the government. I'm trying to protect myself from the people that are criminals that potentially are being paid by our government. And
Okay,
it's my
that's-
right to possess that safety feature in my
I
home.
agree, but that is a right given to you by your government. Like we're always
Actually,
saying, the
tech-
government is against us. The Constitution is a governmental document. That is a document that is the basis for our government. So if you call it a right, it is a right given you by the government, not a human right. Because you're always, people are, Elena's right, they're always quoting the Constitution. That is a government written document. So government gave you that right to begin with. If you're talking about a human right to have whatever you want, then go ahead. But you're talking about a government right to begin with. And it is an amendment, which means it was a change. But I don't want to get into the Constitution yet, because we will be talking about that in a minute and what it means. I do want to get to the gentleman at the top of the panel, because Josh was going to say something, and I wanted to hear what he had to say, as well as Bill, if he has something to add.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Okay, that's fair.
I got
So-
lost in the argument.
I did too for a minute. Every once in a while it gets that way. You're muted over there, Elena Miranda. Oh, okay. So yeah, just talk like that. That's fine.
Talking shit about-
Yeah, they're like, what a bunch of fucking assholes. I was like,
Miranda's sitting over there going, they said they wouldn't interrupt me, and I've been out all night.
No. He said she could interrupt anyone she wanted.
I fully knew I was going to.
Not in his opening fact that was, but the thing is, you look at it like this. So you guys were talking about the fact that there's more shootings here in the United States and everything like that. And the thing is so if there's no guns in a country, they find another weapon. And if you ever want to download something from India or Pakistan, they grab rapists, robbers, everything like that. And what they do is they use a dog, and he's called a bully cutta. And he's a big, massive dog that's very vicious, weighs 200 pounds. And like rapists, they strip men down in the street, tie a hand behind his back, and the dog usually eats his chunk off. And that's what they do. And they use the dogs, and they use a different weapon instead of using a gun. And anywhere you go, I mean, all through the ages and stuff like that, guns have changed. Anytime anyone can change guns, and I'm going to go into a bad fact of the fact that when the white people were fighting with the Indians, they killed the Indians because they had repeating rifles, because they had a better gun. And all the wars were won by someone who either had better gun, had more people shooting the gun, or just their amount of masses and stuff like that. And you have to think about something, and I'm not saying anything bad, and anyone that barks back at me, I don't give a shit. The black people would not be free right now if the North didn't have more guns than the South and more people.
but when you're talking about these wars, you're talking about wars of 100 years ago plus. Okay,
Yes, and that's
we're
the other
talking
thing.
when
You think about
when common invasion were soldiers and stuff entering your land, and you would go house to house and kill, and there was a different kind of war than it is now. Now for most countries, not all of them, you join a military, you're sent out somewhere with your weapons, and that's how you fight your war against other militaries. There was a difference then when they would come in and they would just kill like we did to the Indians, and we would just slaughter them. Or when, we were fighting against the British, or during the French Revolutions, or any of these wars that happened, there's a lot bigger change in the wars. Most wars are even cyber now, more than even guns are involved.
right.
So,
But
back,
when has the Constitution or any of the amendments ever been changed from what they were originally written?
the amendments
just
themselves
like-
are changes. That's why they're called amendments.
Yeah.
Just like that young lady down here in the corner, Miranda was saying, she said something about militia. All right, a lot of people take the word militia in a bad way now because they don't understand it the way it was written, because of the fact that you had the Michigan militia trying to kidnap Governor Whitmer or whatever and shit, and you have different militias in different states, and they supposedly do bad things. But being a militia is the fact that you're able to supposedly bear arms against the country that you believe is going wrong, type of thing, which is what they have in their heads whenever they do this stuff. So
I mean, if the word militia now has negative connotation, that is the fault of the folks saying that they are now a militia. That's
That
why
they
that's
do
the way.
self-identify as that a lot of times. I will agree with you
yeah,
on that one.
yeah. And that's what I'm saying, because when it was originally written,
Sorry, go ahead.
it didn't mean
Hold on.
like that. So
Right. Go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, it's off topic, but connotation, just that word alone makes me angry because white man has a negative connotation. So militia,
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening with terminology. You can't call it anything, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different show. But you're right. It's off topic. But I mean, it's true, and that's why those words particularly get people so fired up and get people so angry or scared or frightened and think there's got to be such a change going on. Now, the
You know
core.
what I'm curious? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm curious about? I'm curious about these countries who have less mass shootings because more, whatever, civilians or population doesn't have weapons. But I'd be curious to see what the rape rates are, or the burglary rates are, or the other crime rates are that could have stopped something like that.
that's something
Those-
that we're not privy to that information because, like you said earlier, we don't live there.
Yeah.
Our media is our media. We don't cover the other countries as much as maybe we could, so we don't hear the stories about what goes on in other countries as much as we hear about
Right.
our problems. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why
Right.
when I hear things without statistics in front of me, I can't really believe like that there's less crime or less shootings or less anything without actually being able to see the data given to me by their media from their country, and not just our politically ran media.
We've talked about this before,
Which
but the
is
data
entirely
is freely
an
available.
issue. Oh, that's an issue with just like most Americans just turn on the news and watch the news. In other countries, they do cover everything from all over the world, and our media doesn't do that. Like that's also an issue with just American media.
Hold on. Oh, you're cutting
our
out there.
American,
Okay.
both sides of our media suck. I don't like either of them.
Absolutely.
Like there's no middle ground in our media. One's ran by the left, one's ran by the right, and that's what you got. So it's even listening to or watching both, you don't get all the right information. So I just
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
No, but
you
I
got to go
mean,
back to the National Enquirer. That's all.
with the internet, the
Yeah,
information
I'd rather
is
read
freely
that.
available.
Read
You
about it.
can find nonpartisan statistics and nonpartisan numbers on the internet. They are freely there. I do not quote things, as Nikki said, that were fed to me by other sides or governments or anything like that. I quote them based on research done that I have looked into, that I have found out the numbers. Do I have when I'm on this show? No, because we don't do this show like that. We do it freely as if we were talking in a group. But
Yeah.
that information is out there to find out the actual percentages and numbers, and that is a hard fact as far as the coral. I didn't say, that mass shootings don't happen, but the correlations with gun ownership with mass shootings by percentage, we are one of the highest countries in the world. Most countries
We
that have the
are the
stricter,
highest.
I believe we were outranked percentage-wise by one or two, but very few. And I could be wrong on that. You might be right on that as well. Elaine.
Where
I'm
are
not
those numbers
100%.
coming from, though? I'm just curious who reports that documentation.
You can go. Well, first you can go to news websites. You can go to stuff like whether it be. Don't go to ABC, Fox, NBC, all that. Don't go to that stuff obviously because they are cited. You're right, but everything from just political websites will show it. Let's see if I can. World Population Review is one that's even. NPR is a good one. You can find it. But the thing is once you get to one of those, Public Health actually has stuff on it too. But when you get to one of those, you can actually follow to find more information. That's what people actually fail to do, and that goes to both sides of any argument, is they see it on one thing and they don't follow up to find out other information. There's that most people, to defend on here, most people who are even for owning your guns and stuff like that and not taking away and all that in the far right also agree with those numbers. That is something that hasn't been in dispute by either side.
There is something I want to shout out to. You guys may or may not want to get involved, but there is a local group here in Michigan that my sister is kind of spearheading that is working on I guess a roundtable type setting similar to this to discuss the options of gun safety and control, and it's like an open forum. You would hashtag 644-33 if you were interested, and then you would hashtag it, or no, I'm sorry, it's you would text it 644-33, and then you would text bold in capitals.
I'll leave a link in the description at the end of the show if you want. I can throw it on there if anybody wants to talk about it further on there. However, we do have a non-compete thing going on here.
No, it's like a public. It's like a city. It's like at a city council event or something.
All right, Connie
It's
is
not.
here.
It's not like this.
Connie's here says give everyone slingshots and let them go.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, but that goes back a lot to what they were saying, that they're going to find other weapons, but other weapons are not necessarily going to be as devastating. My biggest complaint about guns, and I will say, because I'm not a fan of guns as far as the type of guns we have. I am a fan of rifles. I am a fan of regular handguns and stuff like that. I am not a fan of guns whose the sole purpose of that gun, whether it is home built or not, has no other intention than to kill multiple human beings.
And I agree with that 1,000,000%. I am a handgun owner, and we're advocates of hunting, but beyond that, the assault rifles, definitely, they got to go.
But
you have a problem. You have a problem because they have 3D printers now. And the thing is, here in Michigan, the law is you can make your own gun at home, and you never have to register it. And shut up, Connie. And but you never have to register it at all.
Really?
And as long as it's your own personal use, you can't sell it, you can't do anything with it, but you can build your own gun.
I wish Brandon was in the chat right now, because Brandon knows a whole lot about 3D printing because he works in 3D printing. The technology with 3D printing right now is mainly plastic. Mainly.
And
the technology for 3D printing.
Polymer.
Oh yeah.
A lot of your handguns are polymer.
No, and Bill, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, this is why I wish Brandon was in the chat, because he could explain it so much better than I could. There's technology for 3D printing a handgun out of a type of polymer. It's not going to give the same amount of effect that a regular handgun would at this point because of the technology.
It probably could not hold the pressure.
Yeah, most people are dying from trying to print them than are actually using them.
Well, Elena, just so you know, so the cheapest guns that you can buy out there as far as handguns go are called High Point Arms.
Right? No, and I know all of that. I've done a ton of research.
Well, they're very, very inexpensive guns, and they are started off 3D printing the guns. The company started off with 3D printing the guns when they came out, and they are a cheap gun. But it's not just the plastic that you use; it's what you put into it with the metal rifle, with the receiver, and with the barrel and stuff like that. The polymer is just the part that you're holding the gun, and you can buy receivers and barrels and anything like that offline anywhere you want and have them sent to you. And you can put together whatever you want. So, but when you do the polymer and you do the 3D, there's no number on it. So that's why you can only use it for your own personal situation. You can never sell it or anything like that. Now you get caught selling a gun that you made at your home, and you're going to jail for the rest of your life.
Well, you know what?
Absolutely. I agree that you should.
If I'm not mistaken, the kid at the Oxford shooting, it was not an assault rifle that he used. He used a handgun, correct? A 9mm?
It was a handgun, yeah.
Or a Glock. It was a Glock or a 9mm.
It was one or the other, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was not an assault rifle. That was absolutely a handgun that his parents gifted to him, even though he was underage, and then did not lock it up, and he brought it to school.
Okay, so let's talk then Second Amendment, since we brought it up. Everybody has mentioned it up at some point. And I want to go around without arguing with anybody else's perspective or anything like that. What is the Second Amendment? So we're going to start with Bill and go around. What is the Second Amendment as far as you know, and how do you interpret it relating to you? And I want to start with Bill.
Well, so it gives you, I don't even go into the militia thing anymore because so many people have misinterpreted everything.
Understandable.
But it's the right to bear arms, right? So, I mean, and that started way back. So when they printed it way back and our forefathers came up with this and stuff, it was a different idea. So now maybe it's a little bit different. But with me, I mean, you're allowed to own a gun, right? I don't own any handguns. And I tell you right now, just so everyone here knows, there are no guns in this house where I live right now. But I do own a lot of guns, and my guns are all down south, all right? And my guns were taken out of here many years ago because of a situation that happened at my house. But the thing is just throw that anywhere. The thing is you should have the right to be able to buy a firearm if you want to, whether it's to go hunting or whether it's to protect yourself at home. You need to be educated on every aspect of that firearm, whether it's a handgun or a rifle. I got a rifle. I own a rifle right now that it's a 308 rifle. And the thing is no one understands. And this is one of the things I was going to bring up earlier. They were talking about assault rifles and stuff like that. And people don't know. Your Army snipers use a 308 rifle, and it's a bolt action rifle. It's not a fully automatic rifle. You use a bolt action rifle because it shoots better, it's got better aim, and it's a different situation and stuff.
Okay.
So,
okay, Josh, what is your interpretation of the Second Amendment?
Obviously, it's the right to bear arms, and my interpretation is plain and simple, just like that. You have a right to not have guns. You have a right to have a gun if you wish to have a gun for protection or hunting or whatever you need, right? So I think it's as easy as that, and I think that maybe they meant it a different way when they wrote it, like Bill said, and now the interpretation is, oh, we have a right to carry these. We can do whatever we want with these by the mental stability of whoever is owning these guns. When most of the gun owners are responsible gun owners, right? It's the idiots and the people who shouldn't have guns that are the problem. So in Elena's, on Elena's side here, like, she is absolutely right that it needs to be harder for you to get a gun. There has to be, you want to encroach on your HIPAA laws. If you want a gun, you know what? Sorry, you got to do it. If you want a gun, we need to know your mental health. So you're going to give up that freedom. Like, we got to see your HIPAA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have to see your medical records if you want a gun. Period.
Makes sense.
I agree with that. Like, you got to give some to get some. So if you want your right to bear arms, then you got to give up a little something and make everyone else around you comfortable with you owning a gun.
What about you, Nikki?
I mean, I'm right there with Bill and Josh. obviously, I I believe we have, based off of my interpretation of the Second Amendment, we have the right to bear arms. Now, again, the interpretation is outdated in accordance to the way society is now compared to when that was originally put into place. And there should certainly be an amendment to that. And that just the same, and this is me speaking as a CPL holder, I don't think that training is what it should be for someone who holds a CPL. I only have to recertify every 5 years. I don't think that's soon enough. I think it should be an annual thing. I think you should be required to take safety classes and know how to operate your weapon.
That's longer than your license.
Yeah. Just because of the simple fact, being a gun owner, you carry all that liability, and and also too, at the same time, these kids who are doing these mass shootings, I think that Oxford was a great example of how to handle the parents who are not doing their job as parents. And there needs to be more accountability for these minors who are getting access. There needs to be more accountability. I also have a problem with the fact.
I agree and disagree with that. I want to get back to Elena's interpretation in a moment, but I agree and disagree with that because it's hard to believe I was once a kid myself, and it didn't matter what the fuck my parents said or how good they fucking taught me. I kind of did a lot of things that I wanted, so I don't always think it's right to blame the parents, and I hate to say that because I do believe parents are responsible.
Yeah, but as a gun owner, you have the responsibility to keep that gun locked and inaccessible to someone who is underage. And a perfect example, those Oxford parents, it was out and accessible. That child knew how to gain access to that weapon, and that's the problem.
I understand that. Okay. Before the comment 308 with Lupo Mole coded ammo. You're speaking like I'm talking computer programming to somebody right now. It's totally Greek to me. So does anybody want to fill that in?
He was making a comment on what I said, so.
Oh, okay. And she also mentions, before I get to Elena, and semi-auto shotguns haven't been mentioned that are more deadly to a crowd at close range. We'll get back to that in one moment as soon as I go over the Constitution with Elena and Miranda if she wants to participate. Go ahead.
First of all, Miranda will be back in 2 seconds.
Okay.
So like I said before, the Second Amendment was written before guns in general were what they are today. And our founding fathers gave us the freedom to change everything as we saw fit. However, it's not happening because there's a lot of people that are just like, no, it's my constitutional right, which I understand. However, if you look at other countries, Australia, for example,
okay,
they had one mass shooting, so the government was like, okay, no more guns. And they haven't had one since.
I would also like to add that the Second Amendment was written at a time where our government was more volatile and was significantly more unstable than it was today. We were a brand new nation. And everything in that.
I think actually the microphone you're using there is the one on Elena's headset.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because if she comes in and goes out.
My TLDR. The government when the Constitution was written was significantly more volatile than it was today. So there was a higher need for a right to bear arms.
I agree, and I'm bringing the amendment up right now. And this is, as written, as a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and it is to protect against people foreign and domestic. And it was mostly referring to government invaders. This was during a time of a revolutionary war. This is during the time, when your biggest fear was government invaders. But there's one problem with this amendment, and it's the first three words, a well-regulated. The minute you have that in there, this amendment means nothing. Because we are not well-regulated. We are not, this whole thing can be thrown out the window based on those first three words, and that's what we have to fix. And it's also the militia being necessary for security of a free state. it's not talking about your personal freedom. It is talking about, again, government influence and government invasion. What's so funny, Elena?
Well, it's
And
talking
that-
about the militia being security for a free state, but
I'm
that the
listening to
people
everything. We're
always
trying to
have
keep
the
the
right
faith.
to keep.
the
keep it
comma
there.
the comma in there, or sorry, the semicolon in there is indicating this is applying to the militia being necessary. That is what has the right of the people to keep and bear arms and shall not be infringed. That is the semicolon that is in there because referring to as necessary. And
What
just
is your
owning
what
it
is
is not
your
necessary.
what is your idea? What is your definition in this written here in front of you? Militia.
What is my well? Again, militia's
Anybody.
changed. Okay,
So, but I'm saying here
go
right
ahead,
now,
Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
reading that. What is militia?
I think the word militia there means the free people of the United States. I think that the militia is the people as a whole. That's what militia means there. That means a well-regulated people, right? So not one small group, not many small groups. That's all of us as a whole need to be regulated. And that, to honestly, kind of now that I'm thinking about it, means that we need different ways to control who's getting guns and who's not, and take
Yeah.
steps further to make things safer and make everyone more comfortable with who's carrying guns. So that's how I read it now that I'm staring the words in the face.
You know, and I
So
agree.
what does militia mean to you now?
It's that
When you hear the word
I call it a
militia
buzzword
what-
now. Honestly, it's a buzzword.
Yeah,
It's a talking
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It doesn't
and
have
that's what I'm
meaning.
saying. It was always that thing because you looked at it this way, reading that when you were young, or whenever you were learning history and stuff, and now all of a sudden you hear about these militia groups everywhere that are doing things that are not actually a good situation for the people in the United States. So
I think it may be because they were using the word militia like they were doing us a favor, right? I think it's
Yeah.
because they started their group and said the word militia, and it ruined the whole definition of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you have a lot of people that read it that way, all right? Even though they look at the old meaning and they don't understand it, they're going with the new meaning of it and not understanding. That's why they're against that amendment.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to, just because I'm reading it right now, the definition, according to what militia was back then, as defined by the U.S. Congress initially, was during colonial America, all able-bodied men of a certain age range were members of the militia, depending on each colony's rule. Individual towns form local, independent militias for their own defense. Those are the militias, not the common people. When it was written, it was for groups of fighters,
Yes.
not for the
Which
individual.
would be your own police force in your area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it
Protect
would.
your area. So it's always about police. And now
Yeah, but
anymore, it's not about police.
Technically, the police department, like my local city police, they do not have as much power as, and we should all know this, our sheriff's department. Our sheriffs are sworn to serve and protect in terms of our Constitution, where the police department, they are sworn to protect and serve the community. They do not stand to uphold our Constitution. Only our sheriff's department does.
Just so you know, what they write on the side of their cards isn't always the truth. So
To serve and
No, I
protect.
know, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at research that I've done, research that I know for a fact.
See,
That
now,
our
Go ahead,
and
Josh.
then,
Sorry,
and
go
then
ahead.
if you're going to go into
Go ahead, Josh.
you're going to go
Josh
into
first.
county police.
Jo-
Go ahead, Josh.
I want Josh had a question I want to hear.
You mentioned, like, you referred to the police as the militia, right? But according to the amendment.
No, I referred to the militia as police back then for the area.
Okay, but the police back then, did they not work for the government like they do now?
No. We're talking about what Keith was talking about way back in the colonial wars and stuff like that.
The militia they were referring to.
That was your police at that point in time in your area to keep your town and your city safe.
But what I'm saying is,
Except
so the police job, being a cop or being in the police force back then, you weren't part of the government. That wasn't a government job like it is now. Because
No.
what the amendment says is that it's basically to prevent the government or government invaders, right?
Yeah.
So how can you be the preventer of a government invasion if you work for the government?
Because it's prevention, foreign and domestic. It also is for prevention. It's that each colony had their own form of a militia to prevent even domestic government
Because
from
it was
entering.
that at a time when our government was like going and taking people's land and taking their
Correct.
gold. And that
Correct.
was as a militia then, as a
But it
militia in a
wasn't-
country then.
Everybody, they were formed as a militia,
The
so if
men.
necessary, they could come together. Well, I wasn't meaning
Right.
like men or women,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it wasn't just everybody that lived there.
Right.
It was certain people of certain groups that would come together and fight the battle if necessary.
Mostly specifically.
Now, I'm not
the-
saying that doesn't apply today at all, and I'm not saying it does apply. I'm saying that's what it was originally intended as.
Mhm.
Nothing in there really relates to people being able to use that amendment as a defense. Because it's not where we are right now, and until that amendment is amended, it means nothing. It is not regulated. It is not well regulated. It is not for just the people who are together and signed up to serve for
So
the
clearly we
colony or
need
the state.
an amendment to our amendment.
Correct. Correct. But that's the point when people bring it up, and I think that's one of the problems Elena always has as well, with people just bringing up that Second Amendment. It doesn't mean what it meant.
Can you say
Anymore,
with
and it just hasn't changed.
country twang like she does too? Because that's not offensive.
What?
I can try to. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see to that.
Amendment.
It's
And a
not
militia.
Second Amendment right.
Yep, sure is. Connie says militia was a force to protect your own area. Exactly.
Yeah.
And technically, by definition, militia hasn't changed much in that simple definition. Because it still kind of is. That's what people use the term for.
That is the definition. However, groups who represent
Right.
as such are defaming the name.
I will agree with that 100%. So let's talk about a different aspect that I know gets to everybody with gun control, and that is police involvement, since we've talked about it so much with police being a problem too. Josh, you pointed out you don't like government officials, police are part of government, having guns, correct?
No. I'm okay with them having guns.
I mean, if we don't.
If,
If we don't have guns,
well,
you know, if they try to regulate from
there's
us.
no way that we're ever not going to have guns. So I don't understand why. Like you can't just give rid of guns. So yes, I think.
No,
they should have-
I'm saying you would have a problem with only the police or government having guns at that point. But when these
I would
people,
not be okay. If we were not allowed to have guns, they can't have guns.
you would
Right.
not be
That puts us
okay.
in a very,
Right.
very controllable situation.
Well, that was what I was leading into. So how do you stop these forces that have these guns from using them properly in today's world? Because now you got to be afraid to use the guns as police officers. We've seen several videos of shootings, some right, some wrong. Shooting an unarmed individual is not always wrong. That's why they carry them sometimes if their life is in threat. And you shouldn't have to wait till somebody has a gun pointed at you to shoot them, because you have to react on instinct sometimes. And whereas we have good police officers that protect properly, we also have other police officers as we exit the room for the baby. I was like,
No, I just came out here to say we have to go.
okay.
But moral of our story, other countries don't have this issues. Maybe we should look at what they're doing and try to follow suit because they're not having mass shootings. I know we talked a lot about just school shootings, but there are a lot of shootings that aren't just school related.
That's
and
what we're
not
just getting into.
children. I know, but let me say my piece before I have to go. It's not just school shootings. It's not just kids getting a hand of their parents' guns. A lot of it is just bad people being able to get guns, and it just goes back to what I kept saying, that there needs to be background checks, there needs to be mental health checks and things like that. There needs to be ID shown to buy a firearm, any type of firearm. And I'm really sick and tired of hearing, oh, it's mental health, it's mental health, it's mental health. Yes, sometimes it's mental health, but it really pisses me off that a lot of times when the shooter's white, we just talk about mental health. When the shooter is any other ethnicity, we talk about how it was gang related, it was mafia related, it was drug related. But when the shooter's white, it was just mental health. And that really pisses me off as well.
But I think it does
Gun
play a
laws
role,
need to
but
be-
I agree. It's hard to blame everything on that.
Right. Gun laws need to be stricter. ID needs to be shown regardless. I think in our country, everything needs to happen with baby steps. I don't think one person's going to make a change. I don't think 3 million people are going to make a change. I think we need to make very small changes. I think the first step is showing ID. Second step, like ID with criminal background checks. Second step, mental health background checks, and then we just kind of go from there. I don't think that anyone that owns an AR-15 or an assault rifle of any type should be able to have ammunition on them. I think that should be for fun. I think ammunition should only be held at the gun range, because you're not protecting your home with an assault rifle. You're not protecting your home with an AR-15. You're protecting your home with a handgun. You want that ammunition, you can bring that home. If it's anything semi-automatic or fully automatic, that's something for the gun range. I think it should be illegal to bring that home with you.
If you were staying till the end, I'd let that be the closing argument, honestly, because that is very well put in a lot of ways. I do approve of what you said. Well, I'm glad you were here, Elena. Tell Miranda thank you as well. And you guys.
Of course, I had so much fun. It was great seeing all of you, especially you, Josh. I don't see you anymore. I see these guys sometimes, but not so much you.
What about me?
Come on
Holy
these
shit.
shows more often. No, I was just saying, Bill, I get to see you like every week. It's like awesome.
I haven't seen you in forever.
That's fair. Well, I'll be on more often. Love you guys.
All
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so I'm gonna eliminate the police conversation because that was actually where I was going with it, because it was an argument that Nikki and Elena both have talked about extensively, but they have not been here. They're not in here for that. So going to the question that Connie had proposed, and she said in semi-auto shotguns haven't been mentioned that are more deadly to a crowd at close range. How do you feel about that comment particularly?
Well, so you got shotguns. Most people, for home defense, they buy a 12-gauge shotgun with an 18-inch barrel on it, and it's usually a pump. All right. I have told people all my damn life, especially women. All right. I said, you get you a semi-automatic 20-gauge shotgun that is quick as you pull the trigger, it will go off to protect yourself in your house. You do double-aught box shot out of it, and boom, 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 boom. That is your home protection. Because of the fact, a 12-gauge will, young women, smaller women, stuff like that, it will mess you up after you shoot it a couple of times. It'll mess up your shoulder. It really will. But I've always told them that's home defense. And when you get the shotgun and you cut the stock down a little bit and you put a hand grip down there for the woman to hold it, and you got a 18-inch barrel, then automatically everyone thinks that's an assault shotgun and stuff like that. And it's not the same. But these guys who have went out and done everything they did, like I said, if they go out and they're using a semi-automatic rifle, or if they're actually using a real assault gun, it's one thing. But the other thing too is, if you're going to get close to somebody and you're going to shoot somebody, if someone were in a real bad situation, 12-gauge shotgun with double-aught box or 9-point bird shot in it and shooting around at people, they will do more damage. And it's thought, and I think that's why she brought that up. So
I agree. What about you, Josh? Just for anybody who's curious why we're laughing in the side chat real quick, I said I'm getting a hum from Nikki right now. And Josh is just like, getting a hummer from Nikki? I'll be back. Or no, and then Nikki's like, I'll come back. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
I'm neither here nor there on the semi-automatic shotguns, but I do agree, because I'm not a large man by any means. And I've shot a 12-gauge shotgun and it put me on my ass. But I am way bigger than the average woman, right? So if it puts me on my ass, it'll definitely put most women on their ass, for sure. It's a very powerful gun.
I agree with that.
If making it a semi-automatic and making it the 12 or the 20 gauge that he's talking about, that makes it more easy and handleable for women to protect their house, I'm totally fine with that.
All right, so let's go into the politics side of this. And this is, wait, let's get Nikki back on here real quick. She should be here in 1 second. Yeah, we've still got the hum, so just mute yourself between talking, I guess.
Yeah, let me pull out my headphones.
Okay, do that.
Nikki's humming, everybody. Oh, there it went.
All right. Now you'll have to probably leave and come back to hear you if you pulled out your headphones, because it's probably set to go through your headphones. Now you'll probably have to leave and come back. But it'll be better without them. Okay, so going to the politics side of this right now. And I'm going to go because all people ever hear with the argument, and Nikki was a prime example earlier when she said I was talking because I heard it from one side. We'll start with the right and left sides of government. Does the right side of government have it right? Is their solution good right now the way it is?
What's their
No one
solution?
has it right.
What's their solution?
I mean, they believe in the increased gun laws. They're all opposed to taking them all away. They don't believe in limiting certain firearms. They don't believe in some of the regulations imposed against the gun companies for making guns, etc. Do they have it right or wrong?
I mean, I'm not going to say they're fully wrong, but they don't have it 100% right.
Okay. This is a legit, that's why I'm asking. So this is a legit question for you.
My
What about
son
you?
just brought up, and I don't know if it's true, he said they just passed a law that you only have to be 18 to purchase a gun. Does anybody know if that's true or not?
I did not hear that. I thought it was still 21. But we'll find out in a second. What about you, Bill?
If you're 18 years old, you can buy a shotgun or rifle. I don't think you can buy a handgun. But as far as the government goes, I don't think the government's right on either way. They need to find a middle ground somewhere. So,
depending on your state, it's 18 or 21.
What about Michigan?
Michigan
Should be 21. I don't know if that law changed. It was.
the site I'm looking at doesn't point out Michigan. It's more like certain states. So it's not giving them all. I'm not sure about Michigan.
If you go to Sportsman's Warehouse to buy a handgun, you got to be 21.
Yes.
But
I think Michigan is
you buy a
21.
shotgun rifle. You got to buy a shotgun rifle. So that's the only one I know about. Other than if you go to West Virginia or over there, you can buy whatever you want at any age you want, as long as you got the money. So,
Have you guys heard?
Michigan is 18.
How do you guys feel about the government wanting to expunge felonies off of somebody's record, which now means that they're eligible to purchase a weapon? However, if somebody gets a specific misdemeanor, like simply accused of domestic violence but not completely charged because maybe the accusations were bogus, they can't get.
Try to keep that question in mind. I want to get Josh's response first on the first question, and we will go back to that because that's a great point, or great question. So, Josh, as far as the right goes, do you think that they've got it right or wrong as far as you've heard or you know? And I'm asking you based on your knowledge of what you've heard. That's why, because I don't want it to be just facts you've read.
That it's more right than the left is right. So I've seen both sides, and I agree. I like that they know and understand that they need to make changes to the regulations in how to get guns, right? I understand that. There's not a whole lot that I argue with on that side, but I guess it's interpretation of their words. Like, I guess maybe they're kind of like, oh, this is what we're saying, but we actually mean this. So it's really hard to tell what they mean by what they're saying, but on the cover, it looks like they got it right, but I'm pretty sure there's some connotation there that is confusing, and the way that they're writing things is up for interpretation, which is it's government. So.
And what about the left side? The left side definitely agrees as well with the work it takes to get a gun, with the background checks and all that, and what you have to go through. They also definitely agree with that, but their answer is to not arm people. Arm everybody. Not necessarily, I'm not going to the extreme of take away your guns, because nobody really wants to or is going to go door to door and take away your guns. As of right now, that's not a feasible thing that anybody's really going to do. But as far as not arming everybody, That's what I was going with the right. The right's answer is pretty much to arm people, whereas the left answer is to unarm people.
Well, I think that no. I don't think the left is to not arm everyone. I don't think the right is to arm everyone. I think that it's
Right.
just it's up to you whether you want to do it or not. It's the right, like it's the amendment, right? So it's not only arm these people or everyone get armed. Like I don't think that it's that at all. I think that it's the left is like trying to limit the guns that good citizens and good gun handlers can have, like can't have ARs or anything that's semi-automatic or anything. So only being able to own a shotgun that only pumps once, right? When a guy who's a criminal has a gun off the black market that shoots 30 rounds faster than you can shoot one pump shotgun, like, so it's a disadvantage for the people, you know what I mean? So I don't think there should be any limitation on
Do you think either side? Do you think either side actually has ill intent with their resolve?
I don't think there's ill intent. I think that there's bad consequences.
What about you two, Nikki or Bill? Do you think either side actually has ill intent? Not, as Josh said, consequences are one thing, but ill intent that they're trying to. Do you really truly believe that it's a control thing? Do you really truly believe that it's some other reason?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that answer. I think it's a partial control thing. I do think they're, to a certain respect, they definitely are trying to eliminate. I mean, we've lost a lot of children. Not just children. There's been a lot of people in general killed over gunfire. But I don't trust our government.
I don't.
So
I don't blame you.
So I would err on saying that they do have ill intent. I don't, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I understand. This is a personal point of view that we're looking for here. And what about you, Bill?
You have to dig in and see what lobbyists are supporting who and who's getting money
Yes.
with what they say.
Yep.
What my reaction to that question personally when I asked was, I don't think any of them have ill intent. I think they seek personal gain.
Yes.
And I think that's where it is. I don't think it's a matter of that. And because the gun companies do own these, the lobbying that goes on to the politicians in this country is beyond ridiculous. And sometimes the gun company backing you can make or break an election, whether it be for Senate, Congress, or anything.
You are 100%.
And anyone that's watching this that doesn't believe that, watch The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy, and you'll see how partially, kinda, even though it's crazy, how government works.
Mm-hmm. And it's true. There's a lot of truth in those movies out there when it comes to
There is.
Well, you
gun
could probably
violence.
fix that if you get rid of lifers in the government, and they shouldn't be lifetime jobs.
No.
Yeah, term limits is something I think everybody who is not in government agrees with term limits.
Yeah. There's no reason why a government official should enter at one, being with their wealth being rated at a certain level, and now they've quadrupled their value off of a government job.
Well, I have no problem with
your duty to society, right? To help out. Now
Right.
let's totally screw society and make ourselves rich. And
Exactly.
Do everything and pass laws to benefit ourselves.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily think it's wrong to be making the money in government. I really don't, because I think of the amount of work that people actually go through to actually get seated in government
But for a term.
is huge.
Yeah.
Pre-term. So I don't think there's a problem with making money while you're in there as well, but I do think there's a problem, as we were talking about before, with the lobbyists. I do think there's a problem with bribes and stuff like that, or trying to get things with certain agenda done for other companies or outside interest. I do think that's a problem, and that is something to be looked at. And term limits are definitely something to be looked at, because you shouldn't be in.
100%.
But aside from that, I want to go to now, Nikki, if you remember your question, please now.
Yeah.
I'll bring that back up.
So the question was, I saw this just a day or two ago. It might have even been today. They're trying to, or it actually is in place where they're expunging felonies off of people's records, which puts them in a position to now be able to purchase a firearm when they couldn't prior to that. But on the same token, people are getting simple misdemeanors that will now exclude them from being able to purchase a weapon. And I'm not talking violent misdemeanors. There are certain misdemeanors that apply, but we're not talking rapists or robbers here.
Okay.
I think that's a
Wait,
danger. That's a slippery slope that we are transgressing.
Where
on.
did you see this? Where did you see this? Where you're taking felonies off?
Expungements existed forever.
Well, most recently, this past year, they've really been working to expunge. There's a program that if your felony is more than 10 years old, you can work to get it expunged. Now, you have to put in some effort. It's not just, you've been good, so let's take this off. But you do have the ability to get that expunged off your record.
Yeah, but that's always existed. I mean, I was committed an embezzlement
It's been there-
felony when I was like
That's been there
21
for
years
a long
old.
time. But
Huh?
it's
Yeah.
not.
Talk about that later,
So
Keith.
when you have, I'm sorry, when you have a felony
It was
that's
big.
involved a gun, all right,
Yeah.
you're not going to get it expunged, all right. I had a felony involved with assaulting a police officer. It took me 7.5 years. I got it expunged.
Yes.
But if you have a felony with a gun, you're not getting it expunged. And my other thing I wanted to say, because I haven't said this tonight, was, Keith, I have gay friends that want to see the sex show, and I promised him I would say this tonight. So
drink.
Oh, Nikki, yeah, it's our drinking game. He says gay friends or sex show, we got to drink, or white trash Christmas.
I didn't even think about white trash. Shit. Oh, white trash.
We said that before. Anyway, I disagree with you, Nikki, on that. I do believe a misdemeanor should keep you from getting a gun. 100%, even non-violent. Because if you are not, because one of the biggest arguments you and everybody on this panel has given was that people need to be more educated, more trained, know the laws, know how to deal with what they have to deal with when it comes to owning a handgun. Well, if you can't follow a basic thing of the law that is a misdemeanor and you're willing to break that rule, why do you deserve the right to trust in the safety
What if you're wrongly?
of a gun?
What if you're wrongly accused though? What? Because
Life
it's not
sucks.
just.
But it's not on your record.
Yeah, I know
You know
it still
Nikki,
prevents you for
Nikki,
2
you know what you
years
think
from
about?
being able to purchase a
Nikki,
weapon.
you know what you think about? You know what you think about is people go to court and they're accused of this, and all of a sudden they're dealt down to this because the court doesn't want to spend enough time to go through that, and they get dealt down. So they were
Yeah.
accused of a felony and they got dropped down to this. You can't do that.
Well, the specific circumstance that I read was a gentleman was accused of domestic violence, but later completely acquitted. The information was false. However, because of new laws that have been put into place, he cannot purchase a firearm for 2 years.
He can still have that removed from his record for that. And what's wrong with not being able to do it for 2 years? I get that people are falsely accused. I get that things happen that, they were. But at the same time, like Bill said, a lot of people get away with murder and get it, dropped down to something
Sure.
similar. So
Yeah,
you're never going to be able to use the argument of whether you were falsely accused or not, because that happens in every situation. And unfortunately, you got to deal with some of those bad apples.
Okay, but do you think somebody who had a felony and it got expunged should be able to purchase a firearm?
No, I don't. But I'm also but expungement has existed forever.
Yeah.
To get off your, that has been an option forever. You're talking about the new thing about misdemeanors being counting. I think that misdemeanors and felonies of a certain type, I'm not talking about necessarily jaywalking, but even to that point, if you're not going to obey the law to a certain extent, maybe you don't deserve a gun. And if you were in a situation of domestic violence to begin with, whether or not you were accused of it, or whether or not you did it or not, for 2 years is not a bad thing to have to wait to purchase a gun, because you obviously have trouble picking the right people you're around.
I get your point. My thought process is, what if they're hunters, or what if their job, what if it was a police officer and their job requires them to have a gun? Now all their guns have been seized and they can't get another one for 2 years.
Well, fine, if you're a police
having a
officer,
felony.
right?
Why would he have a felony? Why would
No,
a police
a
officer
misdemeanor.
have a felony?
A misdemeanor.
Even a misdemeanor, you should be.
So,
Go ahead.
just so
Bill.
you know, all right, you get a felony on your record even though you get it dropped down, all right? It's not in your local court, but usually Your state police still have it in their files. FBI still has it in their files. It's still
expunged
findable.
still.
Even though it's expunged, it's still findable.
She's
It's
still
that
here.
Easy.
She's in with audio right now. She's still here on the stream. And that's
Sorry,
the thing with expunge.
Sorry, I'm working on getting to my car so I can drive to Hazel Park. So I'm going to hang you guys up on my little phone holder, and I'll be back on
All right,
screen.
we'll see you in a moment. We'll see you.
Well, she's driving to Hazel Park.
Totally safe.
It's hands free.
She's driving
Hands
to
free.
Hazel Park.
Hands free.
Don't
You'll
come
be
near
through my
house,
speaker.
damn it. Don't come
All
near
right.
my house, Nikki.
You're gonna get a
I got my gun.
misdemeanor. You're never gonna be able to buy a gun.
That's that. That's
It's
the
hands
catch.
free, you punks.
God, too many times been like the voice of God shouting at us. So they're right about the felonies and getting expunged. You're absolutely right, Bill, because right now, my felony early on is pretty much gone. But if I try to go to Canada, it's there. There are places you can still see your felonies. They are not as gone as people think they are.
Yeah.
And I think gun owners would be able to look like that, or people applying for a gun when they do the background checks, they're going to see that information. I do believe that, which was
That's
the
not how
argument to
deep
Nikki.
they delve. So,
What about you, Josh? What's your opinion on that?
Josh, how many times you been to jail lately? So, no.
Lately? I guess.
We got to go back, Josh.
I was accused of domestic violence, but that was so she didn't go to jail. She blamed me. But so I spent a night in jail for that. And we went to court. She never showed up. So if I couldn't buy a gun because of that, it would have been an issue. But I can't see something like that keeping somebody for 2 years from buying a gun. I think that's stupid.
I think to a point it may be. Obviously, there's going to be something. The argument shouldn't be against wrongly accused, because obviously, if you're wrongfully accused, there's a lot of things that shouldn't apply to you.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that.
Doesn't make you guilty. So me losing my right because of somebody else falsely accusing me, clearly losing my right doesn't make any sense. And
Nikki, you're fine if you want to just do audio right now, or we see you just staring straight at the road. I prefer that. Okay, thanks.
I know we're all beautiful males to look at, but
she can still see us.
We can all put bags over our heads.
No, don't put the phone in the line of the road.
Oh, man.
You're scaring me, Nikki. All right. Well, there's not really much more to cover. We've covered a lot of it. Is there any issues particularly that you think need to change, or what do you think government can do? Because I believe that they're both... I do believe that on the surface they all have great intent. I do believe they want to stop the madness, stop the violence, stop the mass shootings, stop all this the best they can. The problem is their position in office often depends on keeping things going with certain companies and certain organizations. So to go against that makes them not in office, makes them unable to do anything. What would your solution be, Bill?
You have an ex-president who's trying to support a situation that might make him more favorable, even though he knows that he's about to get screwed in life because everything's coming up on his fucking ass. And your dog's in the background. And but it's just I keep hearing boom, boom, boom. I
Mine.
That's Nikki.
I don't even have a dog, Bill.
But I see that dog. Yeah. But no, you have that situation where, like I said, he's doing what he can do to push it the other way and stuff like that, because you're going against the other way, and then you have
That was Nikki driving. I just muted her for a minute.
your brother. But
my
yeah,
brothers.
I mean, yeah, you're Joe. You need to. They actually do need to. I mean, and no lie. I mean, I'm all about you. If you want to own the gun, you own the gun and stuff like that. But again, there is no way, unless we change the laws and the rules, that the police can check into the mental health situation of people, because it's like doctor, patient, lawyer.
HIPAA laws are not like that, though.
Can't
People
get there.
use that.
HIPAA laws are you can't tell anything to anyone unless the patient tells you can, unless they're dead.
But if you give up that right, you're giving up rights to other things. So that's on you to not share that information.
Yeah.
If you're talking about owning a gun,
But if
your mental
if you're a
state
nut
matters.
job, yeah, but if you're a nut job and you want to own a gun and you bought a gun and they're talking to you and stuff like that, and you talk to your doctor, you're saying you're not telling anything to anyone because maybe I'm crazy. I don't give a shit. Don't talk to the cops. And the doctors can't. That's the law.
Well, I'm sorry. Like I said, I hate this, and we went through a lot of this. Nikki, I'm gonna mute you actually because there's a lot of feedback right now.
Here.
So, or mute yourself and unmute when you want to talk.
Listening to the radio?
Yeah, we're coming through the radio on her phone. There she is. She can mute herself and unmute if she wants to talk. Okay.
Oh, you're not coming through my radio. It's just.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'll mute myself.
That's okay. You're fine. Okay.
Yeah.
The HIPAA laws during the whole COVID thing, the HIPAA laws got a lot of attention in the media because of what people had to reveal, can't reveal, or can't reveal. HIPAA laws are bullshit excuses. If you want the right in a lot of scenarios, HIPAA laws are bullshit. If you want the right to have a gun, yes, your mental health should be something they are allowed to look at. If you deny that right, then you deny that right for a gun. Period. There should be no question.
Easy.
And I do think they should. And Joe also commented, aside from addressing the mental health issue first, too many people ignore the signs that are given and don't take them seriously. Now, that is a huge problem, especially when it's coming to school shootings, or as I mentioned, the text I received earlier from a mutual friend we actually have.
A lot of parents have no brains.
That's very true. But they ignore the signs. What can you do, though? How many times do people show the signs when they would never do something versus those who would? If you're pointing out every sign, are you not endangering several people that are smarter than that, just have issues they're trying to resolve on their own? And which ones do you rat and which ones do you not? Most of the people who have been accused of this, and yes, there have been signs, but they've been, I know Joe's referring to probably some very extreme ones where they've gone through Facebook posts and stuff like that, and they've seen what people that have been obvious signs. But just some of the minor signs and red flags, there's a lot of people that have those red flags. Hell, if you saw some of the shit I went through and the way I talk sometimes, I might give people those red flags. There you go. Exactly the same thing with you, Josh. So how do you eliminate those people if you are a friend? How do you eliminate without having to rat on everybody and suddenly because Josh has a bad day and he's talking crazy shit to me as a friend, I could fuck up his life by going to somebody and saying, hey, I'm worried about him or whatever.
I don't think that being a danger to yourself is as important in this scenario as being a danger to others, right? So when I have a bad day, I never talk about killing a bunch of people, right?
But I do.
I've had times where I was like, oh man, this sucks, because life does suck, right? It gets better, but we've all been in a place where like, dude, this sucks. How am I ever going to get out of this? And for some people, that's a little bit harder to deal with, and you have thoughts, right? So would I think differently if like somebody said, man, fuck that bitch, I'm going to kill her. You know what I mean? Or fuck those, I'll kill those mother, you know what I mean? Like that's different. Like threats like that, when they're constant, or not, maybe not constant, but when they happen in a serious manner more than once, like
if it's a repeat thing, yeah.
Hurting other people more seriously than you're going to hurt yourself, right? That's your decision to do with your body as you want. But if you start talking about hurting other people, now I got an issue, and that would raise a flag to me.
I agree. Joe says exactly. You have to look seriously to each individual. Just because someone says that they are depressed doesn't mean they are going to go shoot something. But if someone regularly goes on rants and they want to kill someone or have fun, it would be to cause chaos that someone has to be looked at seriously. And that's where elimination, I think a lot of times it is the closest friends who have to look at this with somebody. They have to look at the person they are and talking. And I don't, like I said, we talked earlier, I don't necessarily believe in arming everybody because I'm a DJ. And if I had a gun, you know how many bad singers we wouldn't be hearing anymore? Okay.
And I sit next to you, so Jesus, if I had a gun too.
But in seriousness about that, it is about paying attention to the individual. And we talk a lot about this show. This is not about the gun control. That when somebody shows signs of that or somebody is talking, sometimes it is beneficial for you to actually be a friend. Too many people step away from people that talk or act like that. Somebody comes in, they're depressed, they're talking depressed, so people stay away from them. And they're sad. And that's what sometimes pushes them. Most of these kids that do these mass shootings, not all of them, but many of them were kind of loners or part of very small social groups that they were in. People who had distanced themselves, that felt that nobody wanted to be their friends. And sometimes if you reach out and sit and talk with them, by the end of your conversation, you can change what they were going to do, no matter how big or disastrous it could have been. And we can't always leave people because they're expressing things that are uncomfortable to us. And that is a warning sign that we should be aware of. Because if they're planning to mass shoot up somebody, they're probably not just going to shoot you because they'd never, finish the job they intend. And maybe all they're ever looking for is to be recognized and be noticed. A thing of fame is something a lot of people shoot for. Connie says minor signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connie says minor signs start with bad reactions to parents or people around, and then hurting animals, and then going further, unfortunately. And a lot of people that have been, from what I've seen, a lot of them don't do those things. Some of them have clean records, have never done anything. And the biggest thing that is in common with almost everybody that I've seen, at least, and I think you're right, by the way, there's definitely a stepping point to bad things, but they feel isolated and they spend time alone. That's one of the most common
the thing
things.
Is, you don't always see everything that until like way after the fact. If someone did a shooting and stuff like that, and they said, "Oh, this is this," the parents are great and everything like that, and then like a year later, it reads into, yeah, well, the parents were like this. They were not happy with the kids. They didn't pay attention, and they had a dog, and the dog disappeared. They had a cat, and the cat disappeared, or whatever. All the squirrels in the neighborhood were dying and laid in the backyard. Shit, like different shit has happened all over the United States and in different countries, and it goes that way. And the young lady that made the comment right here, like I said, Keith knows my goddaughter. She's has actually stayed very quiet on commenting on this stuff. But she is very, very knowledgeable about everything, and it's one of those things that she does.
Well, it's also one of the difficult topics for people to talk about because it's a very debated issue for everybody. Everybody thinks they have the right, and I always see arguments about this always to be about the person and not about the people. Like almost everybody's argument is about my right, about what I should have, what I should do, never about the people around them, the people they could have stopped if it had been somebody like looking at the mental health and taking signs in, as Connie and Joe both said. It's always about me and my right and what I have. It's hardly usually about the other people. And I'm still one of those people, there are a lot of rights that I have that if I could give it up and I would save multiple lives, I would do it. I don't think... I don't know really how to say it, but never mind. I'm not going to say it because I can't think of how to say it. But it is always focused on themselves. It's always focused on themselves.
Since when do you not know how to see something?
It happens rarely, but it does happen. I'm gonna go, but Josh, I want to go back to you. Something you said at the start of the show before we finish this off. You had mentioned the idea of the gun-free zones and stuff. So expand on that for me.
Well, I'm not super old, but I know that when I was younger, I didn't really hear about all this too much. I guess media is a little different now than it was then. So over the years since post 1990, when I think these gun-free zones laws happened, right? I think since then, those targets became easy, right? I know that I can shoot up this place because I know nobody there is allowed to have a gun, right? So, like if I'm a criminal or somebody that I'm not going to, I mean, granted, I don't think like a criminal either, so I don't know how they think exactly, but say if I was, I'd be smart enough to go, you know what? I'm not going to go in there because people got guns. I don't want a gunfight. I just want to shoot some people, right? If I was a criminal, That's what I would think. I'm not gonna, so I'm gonna attack the easy targets because I know there's no guns. So, but if there was guns there or were guns, you knew that there was some kind of security in, God forbid it, you got to have guns in a church, but in a church or in an elementary school or some form of defense rather than just everyone get under your desk. You know what I
Well, the
mean?
biggest thing you just said was you're not thinking like criminal and the way criminals think. Well, criminals shouldn't have the guns, and I think that's where everybody's
But
argument
there's no
is
stopping
about getting them
that.
out of their
There's no
hands.
stopping that, though.
No, I know that, but they're not. A criminal should not have the firearm to begin with. So packing everybody with a gun. I mean, I've seen enough bar fights and stuff that if somebody had a gun, it would have been a lot worse. I don't know. Mass shootings may go down, but I personally believe too many people packing a gun, just basic shootings will go up. Now, however, in fairness, with the media being different, as you said, I do believe that a lot of our mass shootings and the list we have of how many have gone on in the country is conflated. And I believe that because if we went back to when it wasn't regularly reported in the news in the same way, there's a place by my house used to be called Time Zone Arcade, and you would have seen that as a mass shooting list on a regular basis. Because when I was growing up, there were shootings there all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily believe the numbers have gone up as much as they've said, and media has changed, and I think it scares people into that. But you said the gun-free zone, and you think it's going to make an easier one, but at the same time, what issues do you have being a gun-free zone? Or what particular places do you think they want to be a gun-free zone that shouldn't be?
The school. I don't think that it should be a gun-free zone. I think there should be somebody there with a gun to protect people, or at least scare away. You know what I mean? Make them think twice before they come in, right? Because they're not even hesitating. If they want to do it, they're just walking in and doing it.
So
Joseph.
when you call schools and stuff like that gun-free zones, and unfortunately right now here in the Detroit area, the schools, they are gun-free zones, but they still have police officers at the schools. They have security guards in the churches right now carrying guns. It's still considered a gun-free zone because no one else is allowed to come in there and carry it. But it doesn't actually matter because someone who knows that, I mean, just like the last thing that happened, they were saying, oh, well, I walked in this door and it was supposed to lock and I didn't notice that it didn't lock. When you got no one there to lock the doors, you need someone there to lock the fucking doors.
Sure.
Joe says maybe we need better education about mental health in schools before we get to that point. Definitely agree. We've definitely talked about the mental health aspect so far. And it is something to look at. But Elena was on here earlier, and Elena said she doesn't think it's always to be blamed mental health, and that's true. It's not. Sometimes the people who are the shooters are geniuses. The way they're meticulously plotted out and planned and the way they do the things they do, they're not mentally unstable. They just don't give a fuck.
They're called terrorists in the United States. Doesn't matter if they're from this country or they're not from this country, they're called terrorists.
However, Joe also agrees with you, Josh, exactly. Churches, schools, movie theaters, concerts, all gun-free zones. And look at where the majority of these things are happening. But even if they weren't gun-free zones, I really don't believe... I have a hard time seeing that aspect of a gun owner that everybody everywhere is going to be packing their gun at all times. I do. So I don't know if that would change anything. Joe, you know this because you are my brother growing up. Let's go back to the Time Zone Arcade and where everybody was shot there. It wasn't exactly a gun-free zone. A lot of people had guns in theirs, and how many shootings were there? And was it because... But now, if everybody's packing, look how many shootings there were there. Without it being gun-free.
All right? Back then, Keith, and I think you know this, I worked there with Billy Martin. His dad owned the place, all right? We weren't allowed to carry guns, but stuff happened. And the thing was, it turned into crazy stuff because you had, when Croc Boxing was going on, a lot of guys from the Croc Gym came up there. Milt McCrory came up there. Caveman Lee, Tommy came in there every once in a while and stuff. And when it goes into a situation where there's, oh my gosh, there's all these guys that are known throughout the state and throughout the United States and stuff like that, then you got idiots coming in there. And then it turns into, well, we're selling dope. and we're doing this and doing that, even though it's supposed to be arcade for younger kids and mid-aged people and stuff like that to have fun, and it has turned really, really bad, really, really quick.
Yeah. He says, I think the songs are targeted, I think he means schools, are targeted maybe core. I know there won't be as much resistance. And I think it's the independent places, which is probably true. So, Nikki, how do you feel about the gun-free zone aspect?
I think that Josh hit the nail on the head. It makes them easy targets for sure. You know, it's hard to say, sure, put guns in our school to protect our kids. It is a good deterrent to the criminal, but I don't know if it's gonna stop them.
That's what I'm saying. You know, let's take away mass shootings. Let's take away all that for a moment, and let's look at certain urban areas and cities. And the more people have guns in these cities, the more shootings you have. So does gun-free really eliminate, or does it kind of incite it?
Well, the urban cities are not gun-free zones. Your gun-free zones are like,
No, but more people
schools and-
have guns.
yeah.
No, but I'm saying we're talking about, I said, let's eliminate the mass shootings in the mass places. Okay. But just in general, the more people that have guns, especially, I will say foolishly have guns, you know, not
Yeah.
the right way,
Yeah.
like we were talking. But the
Yeah.
more they have guns, the more they're prone to, fuck you, boom.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
how-
it's a difficult situation because how can you eliminate? You can't eliminate guns altogether because the criminals are getting them. They're, as Bill pointed out, you can make them. Like, there's so many scenarios.
Yeah, but you see, your average everyday person, when it comes to everybody having a gun, you can 3D print a gun, that's true. You can 3D print a working gun. That is fully possible. How many people do it?
Right.
How many of your regular everyday citizens really do it? Of course, there are
Right.
ways to do it, but you're eliminating a lot of people. And I'm sorry, a lot of these drug dealers and a lot of these people there, they don't know how to do that fucking computer shit. You know, when we're talking about
But they're
some of these
learning.
rundown urban areas, they may be learning right now, but they
But they're
don't.
learning.
Or
The
they'll
drug
pay
dealers
somebody
in
to
the
do it.
areas and stuff like that, when the drug
Yep.
dealers got the money, they're learning different ways to do different things because they know if they buy guns off the street, they might get caught and shit, and they're learning different ways to make
Yeah.
guns. And
Let
get
them
guns.
learn. Let them learn, because it's not companies getting paid providing those. And if you still eliminate the companies from this equation, governments on both sides can do a lot more to control and help finish things.
I agree with that.
Do you think that harsher punishment for people who are not legally possessing or who commit crimes with guns, do you think harsher punishment will elude them from doing it?
Not necessarily. I think in some cases it will. I'll be honest. There's some things that I've done that I have gone through the process of, well, the punishment basically, that I've said I'm not gonna do that again. That was far from worth it.
Yeah.
So I believe in some ways it'll help. I believe there are some people who are just career criminals. You're
Yeah.
not going to stop them. But that's no different than a rapist getting out of jail or somebody who robbed a store getting out of jail or anything like that and going and doing it again.
Right.
But again, I think the idea would be to let them figure out a way to get the gun themselves. Go ahead. And then you have a law that they did not buy it. They did not buy it, you know, legally by any means. They are possessing it of any means. And they are breaking the law. And then there can be an extremely harsh punishment for it. But guess what? You've kept the gun companies out of it.
Hmm.
There's got to be a way for the government, as much as technology has advanced, to be able to be, you know, that
I hate
black
you, Bill.
market preventer from them getting everything off the black market. Chug, chug, chug.
I told her that 10 minutes ago.
Well, she gave me a breather. I'm happy for that.
Ooh.
So,
Josh, don't puke. Don't puke.
I'm not gonna puke, but I picked the fucking strongest bottle of bourbon I had. Mistake.
that's why I keep the Crown Peach handy.
So, Josh,
Yeah.
I have this thing. So I am the national champion of skee ball for 7 years in a row. Do you play skee ball for money? I see that back behind you.
The foosball?
Foosball?
Foosball.
Foosball?
Ski ball is that game.
You were in the wrong competition, buddy.
I
Skee
still
ball's
call
the
it-
one
I
at
still-
Chuck E. Cheese's.
I love skee ball.
I still call it skee ball.
You call foosball ski ball?
Bill, that one was
Forever
a
and a
fail.
day. I'm 58 years old.
He can do what he wants.
Thought you were 29.
You're right. You know what? From now on, I'll call it ski ball.
Oh, great. Now we're all going to be fucked up. Josh is done. So let's go back to my house, play some skee ball. We're like, what the fuck is this?
Do I get tickets?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Bill. But I'm probably not as good as you. It's just for fun to me.
Yeah, it is. All right, so
you a spinner or are you a wrist lock? Spinners are cheaters.
spinners are cheaters.
I bet you were a cheater.
I ain't no
Bill.
cheater.
All right, so I guess we can all agree that the biggest problem is to reform the mental health of background checks, correct? I think we're all pretty much on
Yeah.
the same page.
Yeah.
It's just how to get there. I do think we should
You know,
look into
I had a thought. Because
Good for you.
when stop. When a parent comes into the emergency room and a child and they suspect abuse, they immediately call the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if somebody who has a serious mental health issue, it's the same kind of initiation to like red flag their name?
Depending on the mental health issue, I don't believe that's a bad thing. I mean, technically, if you go into a place suicidal, they often will call you and have you committed somewhere because you're suicidal. So there are
Well, yeah,
certain
but
mental
they
health
won't-
situations.
Yeah, but it won't red flag you for a gun purchase. I'm saying within the checks
Oh, no,
and
if-
balances.
That's not true. If you go in a hospital and you are committed by the authorities for that kind of activity, it's good, Josh. It's good.
But I
For
gotta
that
go
ki-
outside to smoke, so I can't. You three
For
are
that
all-
kind of activity, you are red flagged.
Oh.
The minute the authorities are involved in that commitment, which they would have to do, then yes, you do get red flagged the same way with the mental health concern. May not be as strong, but that is still a red flag. But I think there is. I think there's a lot. Joe here was talking about the red flags as well as Connie, and they're very, very important to pay attention to, but we have to know who we're talking to and who
Well,
we're
plus the
dealing
problem
with.
is not everybody seeks mental health treatment because crazy don't know they're crazy.
Which is why I also had responded with something that we've talked about extensively on this show, Nikki, was the fact that if you see somebody in that state, maybe the job isn't necessarily to tattle on them. Maybe the job is to befriend them.
Yeah. Well, and when you guys were talking about that while I was driving, I immediately thought of that kid from Oxford because he was clearly crying out. It makes me wonder if somebody would have helped him, would he have still done what he did?
And I think in a lot of cases it wouldn't have. But I also think they're conflated because as I brought up here, let's see if I can get back to it really quick. I had a listing of the mass shootings, the 25 in just this month alone. And some of these I'm looking at where there's like 1 killed, 1 injured, 1 killed, 2 injured, 0 killed, 3 injured, or something like that. I'm looking at all these. These weren't considered necessarily mass shootings back when we were younger. They were in the local news and they weren't really anywhere else. Nobody ever heard about them.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just high school shootings or whatever, area shootings. So
I believe it's a fear tactic. I don't believe that always some of these signs you can see the same way. And contrary to belief, where one thing my brother did say, that where these all happen, movie theaters, concerts, and schools, etc., no, those are the ones we hear about.
Yeah.
Usually because it's schools because children are involved. That's why they're big in the schools. A lot of these incidents they've taken place at hospitals and Walmarts and grocery stores and party stores or anything like that. Just the middle of the mall sometimes, and you don't know who's packing in a mall. Of course, it depends on which side of 8 Mile you are here. But, what? Don't look at me like that, Josh.
That's something in my eye.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Eyes.
I do think a lot of it's a fear tactic, and it gets us arguing in that sense. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is too is it takes over the news.
Yep.
in a lot of spaces. Just had a little kid that was shaken by his babysitter
Babysitter?
and shaken to death, and he just died this morning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Fox 2 News, like 3 minutes on it, and they went right back into the whole thing of what was going on with the government and shit like that and everything like
The
that.
January 6th.
What the hell? I said,
Committee?
this little kid just fucking died and was beaten to death or shaken to death. And then he died this morning. And it was on last night for a little bit. And you got to think about the mother that's sitting there like, oh my gosh, I just lost my child.
Who has no family, incidentally. She has nobody supporting her.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think, well, again, a lot of times what people think about is the individual, not who it affects out there. The
Yeah.
difference is, and we had this on some of our political shows, our specials that we've done, the biggest thing people have to find is common ground.
Yeah.
Find the right fight to battle and stop battling every single issue related to something as the full battle.
Right.
Guns, I mean, they simple enough, they kill people, and it's a problem. Whether it be the owner responsible, whether it be the company selling the gun, whether they make it on their own, whether it be the research they can get on the internet, whether it be from signs that people don't follow, whether it be from bad parenting, bad teaching, or anything like that, there is a problem. And it's a huge problem in this country. And it's something that needs a solution. As much as people argue back and forth whether or not you should ban guns or keep guns, we all agree that they are out of control. We all agree that what people are doing needs work. And something I said at the very end, I'm going to reiterate right now, that if we could actually fight the common ground that we have as individuals, if somebody says take away our guns and we don't agree with that, let's not fight them on taking away your guns, because most of the things we battle are not feasible. They're not going to take away all the guns. It can't happen. They're not going to arm everybody. That can't work either. That will be mass suicide as well. Either one is not going to work. But let's find the common ground where the problem lies and talk about that. Maybe we can get a better understanding of where people are coming from, where they're relating. And maybe if we start actually talking to people a little more and start identifying signs and actually try to be there and be a friend, we can solve this problem ourselves without government interference. Maybe we can take people down a notch before somebody else does, or they take others out with them. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can show them that their ideas and their plans are way, way too dangerous, too serious, and too threatening to our world and our society. Sometimes you just got to be a friend. Sometimes you just got to be there. Sometimes you got to look at somebody and say, hey, what's wrong? And they'll tell you. And you can change the world when you do something as simple as that. So we're never going to fully solve the problem of guns, but maybe we can solve some of the problems that surround them. Right now, Bill, I'm really happy to have you on this show. Good to have you. You did a lot of research. Thanks for the pictures. I appreciate them. Even though I didn't get through all of them. Because I didn't know what was what. You're talking about different guns. I'm like, I don't know what fucking gun that is.
I know, but you pulled most of it up. And like I said, I mean, when I was talking about what it was and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
everyone thinks that the firearms, that they're like that, and you could take a Ruger 10/22 and put anything on it that you want, and the thing is, it's only a 22 caliber gun, no matter what. So
Yeah, those are loopholes a lot of people use and get through with the capability to do that. But I appreciate everything you did. But yeah, I don't know the difference in the guns right now. You're going to show me 10 different guns. I'm like, that's a gun. That's a gun. Gun. You know. You know. Josh,
They're all the
appreciate
same.
having you on here.
they're all the same gun.
Appreciate having you on here. I really liked your views. I honestly expected a much more harsh battle from you tonight, and I came away with a new understanding of how some people feel about certain issues, and I appreciate that. Too many times we look at people, and just like I did, we prejudge, and we assume their stance on something, and we punish them prehand for it. We're already in a set mode to fight and argue with them, and we don't understand that there's a lot more than the face value. Sometimes we got to look beyond that. And Josh, I appreciate you showing me that tonight, because something even I can be guilty of sometimes. And it was great to have you on. You brought up some great points and great ideas.
Thanks, Keith.
No problem. It's what I'm here for. Nikki, glad you can make it. I know that a lot of political stuff is very important to you that goes around, and I always appreciate your perspectives because you show me more than anybody how a real person reacts to things presented in front of them. And that's what people miss. They miss that authenticity. They miss how it actually affects individuals and what erupts the passion within them. And you have that passion. And every show you're on, it shows, and I appreciate it. And you're very informed in what you talk about, and I like that a lot. So thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you for the kind words.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow to Ear Shoulder Voice. We're on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Meta. You can reach out to us anytime, whether we're doing a show or not. Just go to earshouldervoice.com or our Facebook Meta page, Ear Shoulder Voice, and you can talk to us one-on-one if you need to. If you just want to discuss something, you want to reach out to somebody without judgment, we're there for you. You can talk to us about absolutely anything. We will not judge you. We will not do anything. Connie says, give everyone guns and the Thanos solution. Okay. I
thought that's what you were expecting me to say today.
Kind of, yeah. I was like,
wait a minute.
Oh,
what kind of
shit.
monster do you think I am?
all right, we bring you new shows every Sunday and Wednesday, or try to most Sundays and Wednesdays at least. We will have a open forum coming up. This is going to be on Sunday. We have an open forum show where we talk about anything, current events, whatever's going on. Probably I'm thinking this open forum will be kind of a special open forum where we'll talk about America because it's going to be our last open forum throughout. And what we actually like about this country, I think it'd be a good time to do a show like that because we're always downing everything going on in this country. Let's do a special on Sunday that we talk about all the good things about living in America.
Why is it going to be the
Sorry.
last open forum?
Because 4th of July is going to be the following week. It lasts for like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks. All right.
So
Our next
that's the
topic
last
coming.
open forum forever?
No, I said shut up, Bill, and let me finish this.
You said
All right.
last, damn it.
For a minute. I've also got some
shit.
out-of-town gigs. I won't be back on some of these Sundays. So aside
Oh
from that,
my gosh.
I'm going to mute Bill
He's
really quick.
whining
You know-
about he couldn't.
Okay, so anyway.
He's so crabby about Rothbury, so
Can I finish the close?
go ahead.
Thank you. Well, hey, just do it. Do what you got to do.
Hey,
Let's put
no.
you back in order there. Okay. Our next topic show following 1 week from today will be our final show until after 4th of July. We'll have a whole week off, so we won't have a topic or an open forum after that for the next week at least. It may be a little longer depending on where my gigs are. But it's called Where Do I Fit? We're going to go back to some of the mental health aspects of this show. And for people that just don't seem to fit in, that are always reaching out to other groups, or no matter what they're doing, they don't feel like they belong. It's something most everybody's experienced at some point in their life. They're always reaching for that something. So how do you deal with it? When do you find that? We're going to discuss that all with you. Please join us on that. It should be a very good show on there. And that's about it. So I'm glad to have everybody
Does it
here.
have to do with gay people or a sex show?
Okay. Where do I fit might have something to do with sex.
Or gay people.
Also with gay people, it might. Josh is dead. All right, we've killed the panelists. I guess that's where we got to close it. You guys have a great night.
When you're alone and feeling down, and you're 10 feet underground, when you're so deep you're about to drown, when you're in the lost and found, 'cause heartaches only last a day. Ooh, but your heart will never fade away. Go out and find your way. Don't let them take your soul away. Not a week, not a single day. Hold true to what you wanna be. Never let go. And here's the key: being you, yeah, only you, only you. Being
You can't just leave, Josh. It doesn't work that way.
Hold on a minute. Go back. Did I see the name correctly? Nikki Knopf on that list on there?
Yes, you did.
Is that Elena's friend?
Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Okay, well that's sad. She used to work for me at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, that's not true.
Okay, well that sucks.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know.
Sorry about that. That's real. It's recent too. It was recent.
Hey, I did want to say, while it's on my mind, and it's not a conflicting interest of this, it's a way for our people within our communities to get together and help discuss in a roundtable forum with public officials on what they can do to. Oh, am I cutting out?
No, you're good.
Oh, and what we can do to help change, gun laws.
I think it's good. Definitely post the link to that, and I'll put it in the description. Formal Foundation. I wish we didn't just shut down the show. It was good to see you. I wish you'd have been here sooner. Glad to see you, though. You're always good. You always give us great things to think about in the show. Well, yeah, I mean, good. I didn't think we would actually come to a conclusion on this show, so I think it went well. I think it was a good discussion of a lot of aspects. So thank you very much all for that. Yeah, I thought I was almost the odd one out here. I'm really surprised.
I actually learned a lot today. It kind of helped me get off that pedestal of we all have that right, so give us all guns. I mean, I'm still there to an extent, but I've always been to a point where, maybe we can eliminate the criminals, not the guns. Is there a way to do that?
Utopian world there.
What you have to do, right, is get a whole bunch of people to talk to the government and have them talk to the aliens and have them dissolve all the weapons all around the world.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Or trade it for a moon pie or
Crystal
something.
meth is a hell of a drug,
fine.
Bill.
Moon pie!
I would trade my gun for a moon pie.
I do not give away moon pies, Keith. I'm sorry. I did not give away moon pies.
I said I would trade my gun for a moon pie. I want the moon pie.
I won't.
I mean, you just gotta get everybody really high and say, I'll trade you a gun for this Taco Bell.
There you are.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
No.
I get forced to do another shot.
Well, we should do one more before you go. We're gonna close it out in like 30 seconds. So.
Gay sex.
Gay sex.
Gay friend sex show.
Poor John.
Feels like I'm teasing the gay sex, but I'm not. Like it's.
No, he said gay friends, which is the thing. It's gay friends. That Bill's got to say it technically. Bill's got to say it. He's got to say gay friends, white trash wedding, or sex show.
Gay friends, and I want to see the sex show. I had actually messaged Pete earlier and last week, and he had some little situation and stuff, and I just told him straight out. I said, "Well, I'm going to talk about sex on the show all the time," and he goes, "Oh, it'd be great. I'll be drunk." So
I appreciate it.
Hey, really quick, I got to drive back to Sterling Heights, so hugs, much love. I'll see you guys soon.